All right, hello, this is the utility knife right here, safety video. You're gonna learn how to use one of these safely. What I need you to do is listen closely. There is gonna be a quiz on this, and you must get 100% on it or else you cannot use the utility knife. Now, to use the utility knife, the first thing that you must have is your pre-engineering technology syllabus. A majority of you have turned that in. If you have not turned it in with this sign, you must do so because you are saying that you understand the rules. If it's not turned in, you cannot use the utility knives, and I need you to use them because it's going to make your projects better. Now, what we need to do is go over what you can cut, and you can cut cardboard. You are totally allowed to cut cardboard. You are also allowed to cut other materials that I give you permission to cut. So you must first ask me permission if you can use certain materials for your projects, and if I clear it, then you are good. If I do not clear it, it should not be brought in. What we also need to go over is what you cannot cut. And what you cannot cut is everything other than cardboard or the material that I specify. So scissors, pencils, I should not see anybody with the utility knives whittling away pencils. That is a no, absolutely no go. Same thing for pens, okay? As well, I should not see anybody cutting notches into my rulers. That is not acceptable and will not fly. Okay, so the rule of thumb is you can cut nothing except for cardboard. Even I should not see people cutting into my tables. If I see any scratch marks on my tables, and I will inspect them, you will lose privileges. Okay? And these tables are brand new. They're not your property. And we're going to go over the cutting boards, your provided cutting boards. But that is what you are not allowed to cut, is everything except for cardboard. I don't know if I can say that enough. Now, we need to go over utility knife safety, all right? What you want to do is when you first look at your blade, all right? Now, if your blade, so this one is a brand new utility knife, yours will likely be brand new, but if your blade on it, anywhere in here, has notches or dents, that's very unsafe. That means that your blade is going to be dull and you'll have a serious risk of cutting yourself. As well, if the tip right here of your blade is broken off, that's a bad deal. So if you have notches or the tip's broken off or something's wrong, you must come talk to me, Mr. Nelson, and we'll get it figured out. Alrighty? Now, when you get your utility knife, I actually should introduce this to you. This is the lock. So when it's pushed in, your blade can move back and forth. When this is pulled out, like you see it here, then your blade cannot move, and this is important. So when you are not using your utility knife, it must be locked. It must look like this. Then when you go to use your utility knife, you can push the lock in. And then you must only bring out enough blade so that the blade runs almost flush with the plastic right here. This is too much. This is probably not enough, so it must be about right here. So you want the blade to be about in line with the plastic right here. It's about in line. And then after you pull it out, you must lock it. That way the blade won't slip when you are cutting it. And then immediately after you are done cutting, then you lock the blade or unlock the blade, pull it back in, lock it, and then set it down, and you don't touch it anymore. All right, until you need to cut it again. Let's see, the next thing is when you are cutting, there is no talking to anybody else, or when somebody else is cutting, you are not talking to them. There is a zero tolerance policy on this. And if somebody wants to borrow this from you, what you must do is, let's say you're cutting. Give me a second here. Let's say that you are cutting something and somebody says, yo man, can I borrow that from you? What you need to do is, if you're gonna let them borrow it, I would wait until you're done with your cut, then you retract the blade, and then lock the blade, and then you hand it to the other person. You do not throw it to the other person. Zero tolerance on that one as well. I also need you that when you are cutting, okay, you do not cut towards yourself. So you are seeing this in the view as if I was cutting this. If I take my blade out the way that it is supposed to, the way that it's supposed to be, and I lock it, if I am cutting this direction towards myself, that is extremely unsafe. Extremely unsafe. What you must do is you must position it and your cutting board so that you are actually cutting away from yourself. So you don't want to be cutting towards any part of your body. So if my cut starts here, then what I want to do is I just want to cut away from myself like this, okay? And I shouldn't be cutting towards anybody. So if you have a neighbor that is on this side of you, you should position yourself so you are not cutting towards your neighbor. Now, what we need to do is talk about the cutting boards. When you get the cutting board, you are going to find that it is actually relatively flimsy. You're going to see a few cut marks in it, okay? Those happen, but what I should not see is I should not see students on purpose trying to put the blade all the way through and cut it in half. That is a great way of getting in great big trouble and abusing what's required of you. The idea with cutting boards, this is part of the reason why you are only allowed to have this much blade out, is because it is so soft and you can go right through the cutting board onto the tables, okay? I have not had enough budget money to buy good cutting boards yet, so what you need to do is start being careful, start being safe, and I would make sure that when you are cutting, you are just cutting into the cardboard just enough to get it cut. No more. Now, if you finish and it looks like this, it's no big deal. Usually you can break it off. If it doesn't break off, then you can go into it a little bit more again, and it won't be that big of a deal, okay? I shouldn't see anybody purposely trying to cut through the cutting board. If I see it, zero tolerance. You're losing. You lose the permission to use these. That's how it has to be. How it has to be. The last thing we need to talk about is, once again, my zero tolerance policy. It really isn't acceptable to goof off and be crazy. It's not. When we are cutting, you are serious and you are on task. That is all the information that you need for the quiz. If you need to watch this again, please do so. And good luck. Thank you.